Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you're too arrogant. And if you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power.
Otep, this is Femi here with Freedom Now. And your ears are in tuned at high frequencies in a liberated zone. Freedom Now is a Pan-Africanist, global news outlet from coast to coast, dispelling the Western propaganda media and their all lies point of views. Freedom Now is devoted to relay true news, views, and proper clues to form solutions around freedom for the oppressed worldwide. Now, get relaxed, grab a pen, and phone a friend, because Freedom Now is set to begin to awaken deep sleepers dreaming about freedom now, within, in, freedom now, in.
Habari Gani. This is Sister Tej with Freedom Now's agenda for this Saturday, June 15th, 2024. Although we are in Fun Drive, we still bring you a full hour of radical programming in honor of all the Juneteenth celebrations from here in Los Angeles to across the nation. For today's program, we commence with our ancestor, Didan Kamati, in the African drumbeat historical calendar. Our guest this hour, first, we're joined by longtime Los Angeles community activist and organizer, Elder Ron Wilkins, who's been organizing since the Watts Rebellion and earlier days. He's been organizing locally, nationally, and internationally through his Pan-Africanist lens. And he joins us here today to discuss his new book, Crook's Lens, A Photographic Journey Through the Black Liberation Struggle. And later this hour, prolific author, radical historian, Professor of African American Studies at the University of Houston, and Freedom Now co-producer, Dr. Gerald Horne interviews Professor Everett F. II, visiting assistant professor of history at Bates College in Maine, here to discuss his paper, Philadelphia's Red Summer of 1918. We want to remind our listeners that tomorrow, Sunday, June 16th, at the Leimert Park Art Walk, happening from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. in Africatown, Leimert Park, is the Juneteenth celebration. It's a free event. Dr. Cornel West and Dr. Melina Abdullah will be there as they're campaigning for the presidential VP ticket under the Justice for All Party. There will be black vendors, live radio coverage, a kids corner, community karaoke, raffle with prizes, always the African drum circle, and international food with all the beautiful people. Come out and join us tomorrow at Africatown Leimert Park, Sunday, June 16th, for the free celebration happening tomorrow. Come be with the people. And as Juneteenth celebrations continue throughout the week, and we are in Fun Drive, this hour we're offering tickets to the Juneteenth celebration on June 19th at the Hollywood Bowl to help raise money this hour for Freedom Now, KPFK. The Hollywood Bowl supports our Freedom Now mission as a program and has given us pairs of tickets to the event. All of your donation is tax deductible. You'll get 2 tickets with a pledge of $80. This is only available by calling in. These tickets are not available on our website, and so please call in to 818-985-KPFK. That's 818-985-5735. You'll need an email address so we can email you the tickets for Wednesday, Juneteenth celebration at the Hollywood Bowl. It's a celebration of black music with orchestra, with special guests, D Smoke, T-Pain, Ladisi, Tina Campbell of Mary Mary, La Russell, DC Six Singers Collective, Color of Noise Orchestra, and Derek Hodge conducting. Again, call 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, $80 pledge, and have your email address ready, please, for a pair of tickets supporting Freedom Now. This hour, our music clip mix includes MLK, Zap Mama, Griot B, D Smoke, Ladisi, McCoy Tyner, The Roots, John Coltrane, and more. So sit back, phone in to pledge, and as always, we stand ready for revolution.
Hold on. our studies, history is best qualified to reward all research. And when you see that you got problems, all you have to do is examine the historic method used all over the world by others who had problems similar to yours. And once you see how they got theirs straight, then you know how you can get yours straight.
Hotep, this is Dinan Kamathi with Freedom Now's African Drumbeat Historical Calendar. This calendar gives life to our revolutionary sheroes and heroes and struggles against slavery, colonialism, imperialism, sexism, and racism. As the United States and NATO's assault against humanity continues, we use these historical lessons to remind us that the people's power is greater than Western military technology. June 16, 1680, Nandi was a Zulu mother warrior of the great African leader Shaka Zulu. She fought European slave traders and helped organize an all-female militia, which has numerous successes against the British. She trained Shaka Zulu. June 16, 1976. June 16th is celebrated as Youth Day in South Africa in commemoration of the over 10,000 students who rose up against the racist South African regime's Afrikaner medium degree program, which forced all African schools in South Africa to learn the Dutch language Afrikaner. The Black Consciousness Movement, the Pan-African Congress, and the African National Congress had a history of doing underground political organizing in Soweto. Targeted by the students for destructions were beer halls and liquor stores, which many African students believe were used by the European government to control African people. Over 600 students were killed. June 18, 1858, Lakshmi Bai was born. She's a national heroine of India, a rebel military leader of India's War of Independence against British colonialism. She died at the age of 30 on the battlefield of Gwalior. She was a wrestler, boxer, and athlete, as well as a revolutionary organizer. Her women's brigade was called the Amazon of Jahanzi. She specialized in giving training to women as troopers and gunners in their liberation army. June 16, 1862, legal slavery was abolished in the United States. June 18, 1953, Egypt, Kemet, becomes a republic under leadership of its first president, Mohammed Naguib, who was born in the Sudan. President Naguib and Gabul Abdul Nasser were the primary leaders of the Egyptian Revolution of 1952, which was led by the Free Officers Movement founded in 1949. The Free Officers Movement was a group of young officers, all under 35, from peasant and working class backgrounds that were fiercely anti-British colonialists and led Egypt to independence. June 18, 1954, the CIA invades and overthrows the democratically elected government of President Jacob Arbenz Guzman. President Arbenz put forth new policies, such as giving unused lands by private corporations to the landless peasants. United States multinational corporations, in particular United Fruit Company, which is today Chiquita Brands International, lobbied to overthrow this democratically elected government. Following the coup d'etat, the Guatemalan Civil War begins. This involves a massacre of hundreds of thousands of indigenous Mayan Indians, characterized as genocide. This war prompts a mass migration of Guatemalans to the United States. June 19, 1865, Africans in Texas are notified of Emancipation Proclamation, which was issued in 1863. Juneteenth marks the event. June 19, 1916, Emma Tanyaka was born, a Chicana labor activist and a member of the Texas Communist Party. She led the Pecan Shellers strike in 1933 in San Antonio, Texas, to oppose wage cuts of the already super low wages of 5 cents per day. Over 2,000 Pecan workers went on strike at over 130 plants. Strikers were tear gassed, beaten, and jailed before victory was won. June 19, 1937, Trinidad in the Caribbean. The The British colonial police are defeated in their efforts to beat back oil worker strikers under the leadership of union organizer Uriah Butler. Uriah Butler stated that unemployment and low wages in Trinidad were the work of the evil white men who control the colony and above all else the evil oil magnates. This strike ushered in a new radical political leadership that led Trinidad to independence. June 19, 1965, Algerian President Ahmed Ben Bella was arrested and deposed after leading Algeria to independence and a rapid nationalization of Algeria's land and industries. June 19, 1968, the Solidarity Day March of Poor People in the U.S. This mass march establishes the squatter settlement named Resurrection City, which represented Native Americans, Chicanos, and poor whites together with Africans. This campaign brought to the front door of the White House the massive poverty in the United States. June 20th, 1920, Eduardo Mundilani was born. He served as the president of Frelimo, the Front for the Liberation of Mozambique. Frelimo led a guerrilla war against Portuguese colonialism. Frelimo led the reconstruction of a socialist Mozambique. In 1969, he was assassinated by a bomb planted in a book sent to him by the Portuguese secret police, PIED. June 20th, 1941, CORE, the Congress of Racial Equality, was founded by James Farmer. CORE used the principles of nonviolence to fight Jim Crow segregation. CORE's principal tactics were freedom bus rides in the South and the desegregation of schools in the North. CORE, in alliance with SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and the NAACP, organized freedom summer campaigns to struggle against the political disenfranchisement of Africans. June 20th, 1960, Mali, formerly the Sudanese Republic, gains independence from France under leadership of Modibo Keita, who forms a Pan-Africanist and socialist nation. June 20th, 1960, Senegal gains independence from France. June 20th, 1967, World Boxing heavyweight champ Muhammad Ali was convicted of violating the Selective Service laws by refusing to be drafted in the U.S. Army to fight Vietnamese. June 20th, 1980, 10,000 African workers in South Africa struck against multinational corporation General Motors, Ford, and Goodyear Corporation over poor working conditions and wages. June 21st, 1943, in Detroit, Michigan, race rebellion breaks out and lasts for over 3 days before federal troops were moved in. Rumors that a white woman was raped sparked European youth to assault Africans. Africans fought back, destroying European businesses, with over 34 dead and 433 people wounded. This has been the African Drumbeat Historical Calendar here at Freedom Now. This afternoon's program can be reheard for the next 60 days at kpfk.org. Audio archives scroll to Freedom Now. Please join us in a chant of unity, wherever you are, in a chant of unity by repeating after me, Amandla away to 3 times, which means the power belongs to we the people.
Amandla
away to.
Amandla
Away to.
Amandla
Away to.
Pledge $80 for 2 tickets and join us on Juneteenth, this upcoming Wednesday, June 19th at the Hollywood Bowl for a Juneteenth celebration. A celebration of black music with orchestra with special guests, D Smoke, T-Pain, Ladisi, Tina Campbell of Mary Mary, La Russell, DC6 Singers Collective, Color of Noise Orchestra, and Derek Hodge conductor. Call 818-985-KPFK. That's 818-985-5735. You'll need to give an email address so our phone operator can take your pledge with this thank you gift that you can transfer the tickets to this email address. These tickets are not available through our KPFK website. These tickets are special to KPFK. We give thanks to the Hollywood Bowl for supporting our Freedom Now programming and our mission here with these Juneteenth tickets. The entire $80 goes straight to KPFK. Again, this is for 2 tickets to the Hollywood Bowl for the Juneteenth celebration. With an $80 pledge, you get 2 tickets. Call 818 818-985-KPFK. That's 818-985-5735. And again, this is a celebration of Black music with orchestra, with special music guests D Smoke, T-Pain, the DC, Tina Campbell, Mary Mary, La Russell, DC Six Singers Collective, Color of Noise Orchestra, and Derek Hodge Conductor. This is Sister Tej, and I have to give a special shout out to our brother D Smoke, who I personally had the honor of being his colleague at a South LA high school. And he's been with KPFK supporting music programs like Breakbeats and Rhyme. Shout out to Matt Perez and Brother Chetty. Shout out to our KPFK family. So come out and support. Thank you, Hollywood Bowl, for supporting our listeners with these tickets to support our pledge drive with a donation of $80. You don't want to miss this. You get 2 tickets. It's happening Wednesday, June 19th at 8 p.m. at the Hollywood Bowl, 818-985-KPFK. That's 818-985-5735. Please have an email address ready, yours or someone you want to surprise. You can give them the 2 tickets, but you're supporting KPFK. You're supporting Hollywood Bowl's Belief in Freedom Now's mission. I was on the phone with them, talking to them about our programming and why we wanted to pitch these tickets to support Freedom Now this hour. So please call 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, and we'll see you at the Hollywood Bowl on Juneteenth, Wednesday, June 19th at 8 p.m. This is Sister Tej with Freedom Now, and we're honored to be joined on the line by Ron Wilkins, longtime movement organizer in the Black liberation struggle. Thank you for joining us back here on Freedom Now.
And thank you, Tej, for inviting me. And I also want to acknowledge Brother D-Don, who initiated the show that you're doing, who was its first organizer and host. And I appreciate you carrying on the work.
Thank you. And right on for that. And we thank you because of your history with actually starting the African Drumbeat Historical Analysis. With starting the African Drumbeat Historical Calendar, which Freedom Now continues to do.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so thank you for initiating that many years ago. And so today we're here to discuss your new book, Crook's Lens, A Photographic Journey Through the Black Liberation Struggle. And so first we wanted to ask you, can you tell us about how you got the name Crook?
Crook was a nickname given to me by my homies, the guys I ran the streets with. When we were young and coming up here in LA, in South LA, we had no jobs, and we were always in need of money and resources. And I was very resourceful in terms of helping us, especially on the weekend, put our hands on some goods that we could also exchange for money. And that's how I got the name Crook. And on through the movement, later on and years later, people would refer to me as Brother Crook because we would be brother so-and-so or sister so-and-so. But that's how I got the name.
And so can you tell our listeners, why did you write this book, Crook's Lens, A Photographic Journey Through the Black Liberation Struggle? I
wrote it for 2 principal reasons. One is, and it's not so much to focus on me and to have people look at me as an organizer, as a leader, so-called in the movement, but my own history. I grew up very poor. My mother was a single parent. We had very limited resources. She had 5 children, and I'm the only one left, by the way. And so one of the reasons why I've written this, a principal reason why I've written this book, is I wanted other young people who grow up with limited resources, who grow up maybe poor in the community, to look at my evolution and how I went from being a community liability to a community asset, and began fighting oppression and took the side of the community. So I wanted to tell my story. That's one of the principal reasons, because I'm getting older and I feel that's my responsibility to upcoming generations and the present generation. The other principal reason that I'm writing this is because many of the people that are featured in this, we talk about the photographs in the book, many of the people who are featured have since passed on. And I have a responsibility to them because they're important ancestors who gave so much to the struggle. And I wanted to write about my organizing with them or my encounters with them. And so those are the principal reasons why I wrote this book.
And so that leads right into our next question. That you mention revolutionary leaders in the book like James Forman and Huey P. Newton, and others in the struggle such as Nina Simone, Yuri Kochiyama, Yasser Arafat, Muammar Gaddafi, and many more. And so can you kind of talk about these people that you mentioned in the book?
Yes, I mentioned them. I also mentioned people like Ilombe Brath, who was chairman of Patrice Lumumba Coalition, an organization where I was a vice chair here in the Western region. I mentioned, of course, Angela Davis. These are all people that I organized with and worked with or encountered. I mentioned so many of them because they're examples. What they gave to our struggle is very important. I also talk about Black-Brown solidarity in the book. I mentioned I met people like Reyes Lopez Tejerina, who headed a group in New Mexico called the Alianza, and they fought to recover the land taken from indigenous people and Mexicanos and so on. I went to jail with Tejerina there in New Mexico back in the day and so on. So these are all examples. I also met and worked with people like Elizabeth Batista, Elizabeth, can I call her last name now? But anyway, I met Batista, who was one of the two Chicanas that were in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee back in the day. And she introduced me and others to Reyes Lopez Tejerina in New Mexico and so on. But anyway, yes, I mentioned all of them in the book. I met Harry Belafonte as we were doing work around the cultural boycott against racist South Africa when the white minority in South Africa controlled the country and brutally exploited the Black majority, carried out genocide against them. And we were involved in a major effort called the cultural boycott, which the United Nations began in 1982. So I just think it's important that people nowadays know about and appreciate all these enormous contributions that people made in the past to the liberation struggle. So yes, I happened to meet Harry Belafonte in Athens, Greece, at a United Nations sponsored program where we were talking about the work we were doing against apartheid South Africa. So I also work with people like Kwame Ture, many remember as Stokely Carmichael, who popularized the slogan, Black Power. It was Willie Mukasa Ricks who first shouted the term Black Power in 1966, and so on. I also, in the book, I have photographs of me when I was a member of an organization known as Community Alert Patrol. We were the first civilian group in the United States to actually police the police. And we organized it in 1966, and I was eventually designated field commander. We had military titles. And in the book, there are photographs of me sitting in my hoopty, my 1938 Plymouth. Police throughout Los Angeles hated me. They often stopped me. They wrote me a lot of tickets to try to force the loss of my driver's license so we couldn't be on the streets patrolling. And what would happen is they would stop you. We would pull up behind them. We would always maintain a 10-foot distance, and we would be armed with cameras and walkie-talkies. And if they abused you, we'd photograph the abuse and rush it to the media as a way to try to curb police terror. This organization, by the way, started, this is where the Black Panther Party got the notion of patrolling police and so on. So I was involved in all these efforts, and I think it's so important that people know this history, know this story. And so that's why I included these images in the book. So, yes, there's also on the cover of the book is a photograph of me, the opening night of the Watts Rebellion, or the Watts Uprising, the South LA Uprising that began on August 11th, 1965. I've got a smirk on my face. My arms are extended. I'm in front of a big crowd at the corner of Imperial Highway and Avalon in Los Angeles. And I'm telling the police that we were confronting, that they were just a white gang with baggies, that we were going to whoop them and run them out of there that night. And that night, we actually took control of that intersection, and the police vacated their post that they had set up there. So that gives you an idea. I also have, of course, in the book, pictures of Muammar Gaddafi. I went to Libya twice in the 1980s. I went there first in 1986 after the U.S. attacked Libya and bombed many parts of the country, ended up killing many Libyan civilians. And even the 4-year-old daughter of Muammar Gaddafi was killed because they attacked the barracks where he lived. I also photographed Yasser Arafat. I had a chance to meet him in 1989 when I went to Libya, and I was there. I actually sat in Gaddafi's tent each time I was there, but I met Yasser Arafat because Libya was a very strong supporter of the Palestinian people in their ongoing struggle for not only their rights, but their ongoing struggle to reclaim their land and control their own destiny, which the Israeli Zionists, of course, are in control of at this point. So that's what's, these are some of the pictures that are in the book. Yuri Kochiyama, by the way, worked with Malcolm X, and so did, she was the one at the Audubon Ballroom when Malcolm was killed, and she's seen kneeling down. She's holding his head in her lap after he was gunned down at the Audubon, and so on. But those are among the pictures that are in my book.
Right on. And we're going to take a pause right here because we are in Fund Drive, and so we've got a pitch, and then we'll return back to our interview with Ron Wilkins on his book, Crook's Lens, A Photographic Journey Through the Black Liberation Struggle. Pledge $80 for 2 tickets and join us on Juneteenth, this upcoming Wednesday, June 19th at the Hollywood Bowl for a Juneteenth celebration. A celebration of Black music with orchestra with special guests, D Smoke, T-Pain, Ladisi, Tina Campbell of Mary Mary, La Russell, DC6 Singers Collective, Color of Noise Orchestra, and Derek Hodge Conductor. Call 818-985-KPFK. That's 818-985-5735. You'll need to give an email address so our phone operator can take your pledge with this thank you gift that you can transfer the tickets to this email address. These tickets are not available through our KPFK website. These tickets are special to KPFK. We give thanks to the Hollywood Bowl for supporting our Freedom Now programming and our mission here with these Juneteenth tickets. The entire $80 goes straight to KPFK. Again, this is for 2 tickets to the Hollywood Bowl for the Juneteenth celebration. With an $80 pledge, you get 2 tickets. Call 818-985-KPFK. That's 818-985-5735. And again, this is a celebration of Black music with orchestra with special music guests D Smoke, T-Pain, Ladisi, Tina Campbell of Mary Mary, La Russell, DC6 Singers Collective, Color of Noise Orchestra, and Derek Hodge Conductor. This is Sister Tej, and I have to give a special shout out to our brother D Smoke, who I personally had the honor of being his colleague at a South LA high school. And he's been with KPFK supporting music programs like Breakbeats and Rhymes. Shout out to Matt Perez and Brother Chetty. Shout out to our KPFK family. So come out and support. Thank you, Hollywood Bowl, for supporting our listeners with these tickets to support our pledge drive with a donation of $80. You don't want to miss this. You get 2 tickets. It's happening Wednesday, June 19th at 8 p.m. at the Hollywood Bowl. 818-985-KPFK. That's 818-985-5735. Please have an email address ready, yours or someone you want to surprise. You can give them the 2 tickets, but you're supporting KPFK. You're supporting Hollywood Bowl's belief belief in Freedom Now's mission. I was on the phone with them, talking to them about our programming and why we wanted to pitch these tickets to support Freedom Now this hour. So please call 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, and we'll see you at the Hollywood Bowl on Juneteenth, Wednesday, June 19th at 8 p.m. And now we return to our interview with Ron Wilkins, longtime community activist and organizer, here discussing his new book, Crook's Lens, A Photographic Journey Through the Black Liberation Struggle. And first, I just want to make a note that I'm so grateful that you talked about the cover of your book and the history of that photo, because that's the same photo also on the cover of another book as well, Fire This Time by Dr. Gerald Horne on the Watts Uprising in the 1960s. And so when we say longtime movement organizer in the Black liberation struggle, there's a lot of evidence of that. So moving forward, I do want to continue to expand on your international voyages, also to Guinea, Ghana, Mexico. Can you talk about those?
Sure. I went to Mexico a number of times. Many people don't know that Mexico got its independence, of course, in 1821 after a long struggle against the Spanish. But what many people don't know is that the principal leaders of Mexico's independence struggle, Jose Morelos, who was the general that led the main Mexican forces for 5 years before he was captured and executed, just as Father Hidalgo had been captured and executed after leading the struggle for about 9 months at its beginning. Morelos, when he led the struggle, the Spanish who were fighting the Mexican fighters often referred to the fighting forces, the Mexican forces, as Ejército Moreno, or dark army, because the complexion of so many of the Mexican fighters was dark. Father Hidalgo, from the very beginning, made it clear that in 1810 that the struggle for Mexico's independence would not just be a struggle to win independence from Spain, but they would also outlaw slavery, because under Spanish rule, there was 300 years of slavery in Mexico, and that's the African people were brought into Mexico then. So Afro-Mexicans, when they heard this from Father Hidalgo, and it was later echoed by Jose Morelos, they ran to the front lines to join the Mexican forces and fight the Spanish. They used to carry a black flag onto many of the battlefields when they fought the Spanish. Many people don't know this history. They don't know that after Jose Morelos was killed, after 5 years of leading the struggle, you had Vicente Ramon Guerrero, who was also an Afro-Mexican, just as Morelos was, lead the main Mexican forces and ultimately secure Mexico's independence from Spain. So Black Mexicans played a major role in helping Mexico win its independence. And also from 1810 until 1865, which was the end of the Civil War, thousands of Africans who were enslaved here in the U.S. fled south, many through Texas into Mexico, and the Tejanos there, and as the Mexicans were called in Texas, supported them, helped them wage uprisings on the plantations, defended them, fed them when they arrived in Mexico, gave them jobs, and so on. So that's a history I also talk about in the book, and it's something I'm very passionate about, because the rulers in the United States keep many Mexican and Black people divided because they say we're against each other, but in both communities we don't know this history. So that's something that, and I've taken students, I've taken high school students along with others. We've taken them to Black Mexico, to Oaxaca and Guerrero. Those are the states where most of the Afro-Mexicans are today. Taken them there, and also had them introduce them to Afro-Mexicans, and they've developed friendships and all the rest. So that's a part of what's in the book, and part of what I want people to understand and celebrate and build on.
Mm-hmm. And definitely, I want to salute you, because I remember 5 years ago, you came to our high school in Watts that I was working at for our Black History Month as a speaker, to support the students with the Black and Brown solidarity, to give more history of the Black Mexican history as well. And I just remember the students' responses afterwards, that they had learned so much. And so just definitely wanted to salute your work, as a longtime movement organizer, continuously still working with students as well. And so I wanted, as we get ready to wrap up here, I do want to ask, is there anything else that you wanted to add before we get to how people can get a copy of the book?
Yeah, just on that point too, in terms of Black and Brown, in terms of Black people and Mexican people in solidarity. Cinco de Mayo, for example, which was, we just passed it with May 5th, 1862, when a smaller Mexican force, which was greatly outnumbered by French invaders, came into Puebla, Mexico, and they were defeated. They were defeated by the Mexican force, and that's celebrated by many people as Cinco de Mayo. Black people should be celebrating it too, and even more so, because the French that invaded Mexico were supporters of the Confederacy. 1862 was also the period when the Civil War was being fought in the United States. And the French had hoped that the Confederates would succeed so that they could reclaim land that they had lost here in this part of the world. And so their defeat is something that Black people should be celebrating instead of standing back against the wall saying that's for Mexicans and it has nothing to do with us. It's got everything to do with us. And we should be embracing Mexican people, congratulating them and thanking them for defeating a force that was an enemy of our people at that time. But because we don't know history, we don't celebrate, we don't put on the blindfolds and go out and swing at the piñatas and all that as Mexican people do. But we need to learn our history. Malcolm said that of all our studies, history is best qualified to reward our research. And that's still very true today.
I definitely recognize that from the African Drumbeat Historical Calendar on Freedom Now.
Thank you.
Right on.
Thank you.
And so how can people get a copy of the book?
Amazon, you can find it on Amazon. If you just put the title in online, it'll pop up. Barnes and Noble, and then there's some other sites that have it. Periodically, I do book launches and I sign books, and we put that out to the public every now and then. But those are a couple of sites where you can get it: Barnes and Noble and Amazon.
So thank you. Again, we've been speaking with Ron Wilkins, longtime movement organizer in the Black liberation struggle, here on Freedom Now, discussing his new book, Crook's Lens, A Photographic Journey Through the Black Liberation Struggle. Thank you so much for joining us back here on Freedom Now.
And thank you, Tej. Thanks for inviting me.
Pledge $80 for 2 tickets and join us on Juneteenth, this upcoming Wednesday, June 19th at the Hollywood Bowl for a Juneteenth celebration. A celebration of Black music with orchestra with special guests D Smoke, T-Pain, Ladisi, Tina Campbell of Mary Mary, La Russell, DC6 Singers Collective, Color of Noise Orchestra, and Derek Hodge Conductor. Call 818-985-KPFK. That's 818-985-5735. You'll need to give an email address so our phone operator can take your pledge with this thank you gift that you can transfer the tickets to this email address. These tickets are not available through our KPFK website. These tickets are special to KPFK. We give thanks to the Hollywood Bowl for supporting our Freedom Now programming and our mission here with these Juneteenth tickets. The entire $80 goes straight to KPFK. Again, this is for 2 tickets to the Hollywood Bowl for the Juneteenth celebration. With an $80 pledge, you get 2 tickets. Call 818-985-KPFK. That's 818-985-5735. And again, this is a celebration of Black music with orchestra with special music guests D Smoke, T-Pain, Ladisi, Tina Campbell of Mary Mary, La Russell, DC6 Singers Collective, Color of Noise Orchestra, and Derek Hodge Conductor. This is Sister Tej, and I have to give a special shout out to our brother D Smoke, who I personally had the honor of being his colleague at a South LA high school. and he's been with KPFK supporting music programs like Breakbeats and Rhyme. Shout out to Matt Perez and Brother Chetty. Shout out to our KPFK family. So come out and support. Thank you, Hollywood Bowl, for supporting our listeners with these tickets to support our pledge drive with a donation of $80. You don't want to miss this. You get 2 tickets. It's happening Wednesday, June 19th at 8 p.m. at the Hollywood Bowl, 818-985-KPFK. That's 818-985-5735. Please have an email address ready, yours or someone you want to surprise. You can give them the 2 tickets, but you're supporting KPFK. You're supporting Hollywood Bowl's Belief in Freedom Now's mission. I was on the phone with them, talking to them about our programming and why we wanted to pitch these tickets to support Freedom Now this hour. So please call 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, and we'll see you at the Hollywood Bowl on Juneteenth, Wednesday, June 19th at 8 p.m.
For Pacifica Radio, KPFK Los Angeles, this is Gerald Horne, and with me on the line is Everett Hardy II, visiting assistant professor of history at Bates College in Maine, who recently presented a paper at the most recent convention of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History that took place in Jacksonville, Florida, his subject being Philadelphia's Red Summer of 1918. Thank you for joining us on Freedom Now, KPFK Los Angeles, Professor Hardy.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So what was Philadelphia's Red Summer, and how did you get interested in it?
Philadelphia's Red Summer was a series of outbreaks of riot that occurred from July 26th until the early weeks of October. It's categorized by violence on people's homes and property, as well as police brutality and brutality by the American military against African American people. I got interested in it as I was doing the research for my dissertation, Making Black Power Pay, African American Banking in Philadelphia from 1900 to 1930. And I kept seeing these events appear over the course of the summer of 1918 and early fall, where African Americans were subject to racial violence and fighting back in a variety of ways. And so I, checked it off in a little box in my head and put it to the side because I knew I wanted to revisit what happened in Philadelphia during that period.
Fighting back in a number of ways. Could you elaborate?
Yes. They took political action. They lobbied their local government. They lobbied the local police chief. They took physical action by policing the police, forming a militia of African American men who would protect Black homes, who would protect Black neighborhoods. And they took legislative action, which came in the 1920s, where they tried to get a civil rights bill passed to protect Black people from lynching. And during this period, they also took judicial action, holding police accountable and protecting the rights of Black citizenry in court.
Now, you mentioned a moment or two ago that the U.S. military was involved in these attacks on Black Americans. Could you elaborate on that?
Yes. During 1918, Philadelphia served as a major naval port. It had a long history of shipping, but during the war, those things really revved up both production of warships and war industries, and actually housing sailors in the Philadelphia port. And so we see on August 5th that a band of about 50 to 60 white sailors enter South Philadelphia to the Grays Ferry neighborhood and begin to terrorize the Black citizens there, destroying property, breaking windows, pulling Black people out of their homes, pulling their furniture out of their homes and setting it on fire. And they really raged starting in August and then through September and early October against the Black community, coming in and pulling Black people off ferries when they're traveling to places like Chester, Pennsylvania, beating them in the streets, during or pulling off trolleys and beating them in the streets during just random afternoons, Sundays and Saturday afternoons, and moving early in the period largely unchecked until really September, when the police force reconfigures itself and the African American community pushes back with the War Department.
Mm-hmm. So there were attacks by U.S. military. What about white vigilante, Ku Klux Klan type attacks in Philadelphia?
Yeah, it doesn't seem that it's organized by the Klan, but there is white vigilante action throughout the entire riot period. These are neighbors who are of Irish and Italian descent. It seems more Irish than Italian. And they are angered by Black movement into what they perceive as their neighborhoods. And so they are joining together, throwing bricks through Black windows, pulling Black people from their homes, setting these homes ablaze, which is an interesting tactic in a place like Philadelphia, where the homes are all connected in what is termed row housing. And so they're so angry with this sort of Black success and Black movement into quote unquote white working class spaces that they're willing to risk even the homes of their neighbors and themselves through creating fire and riot. The organized groups that really participate in this are the Philadelphia police and the naval officers via sailors. Those are the ones who are armed and organized who participate, not a Ku Klux Klan like organization.
Could you shed light on that?
Yeah. The original event starts on July 26th and lasts for a period of about 4 days, right, of rioting as we see traditionally. It springs up again on August 4th through about August 7th with, again, a period of rioting and beatings. And then it ends, is quelled, happens again on August 14th or about August 16th, and then it's quelled and occurs again around September 7th to about September 9th. And then everything is quiet until the first week, really, of October, where we see a final incident by naval officers, and I shouldn't say officers, by soldiers and sailors who accost Black people near a ferry near Camden, Pennsylvania, the Camden Fair. New Jersey, the Camden Ferry, a ferry between New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. So you suggested a moment or two ago that this question of Black people moving into so-called white neighborhoods was a spark. From where in the South, or from where in the United States, were these Black people coming from? Was it the Carolinas? Was it Virginia? Or elsewhere?
Yeah, African Americans are coming from, as you mentioned, the Carolinas. They're coming from Maryland. They're coming from Virginia. They're coming from Delaware. Some are even coming from southern New Jersey. Philadelphia was a major economic center for Black people specifically during this period. It is a heart of a thriving Black community, what I have called a Black Wall Street, to steal that term from Tulsa. You know, it has 2 banks and 2 hospitals and newspapers and a African American baseball team and scores of businesses and restaurants. And so African Americans are pouring into Philadelphia for those reasons, but also during the war, the opening of wartime industries is bringing people in from the South and from the mid-Atlantic states to find their wealth in Philadelphia.
Now, were there analogous anti-Black riots taking place in the United States in 1918? What similarities and differences do you espy?
Yeah, there are for sure riots occurring across the nation in 1918, but I would even push it back and say this has been a culmination of riots beginning in as early as 1916. You know, when we're thinking of the Houston riot, when we're thinking of Elaine, Arkansas, which is in 1919, but we're thinking of what happens in East St. Louis in 1917, and then in Chester, Pennsylvania in 1917 as well. Chester, Pennsylvania is located about 20 miles south of Philadelphia, And it saw a race riot in 1917 that was centered on the opening of war industries and African Americans moving into those jobs. And so, yes, there's a large uptick in a series of race riots that we often think culminate in 1919, right, with the Red Summer that sees a national rioting. But I would argue that this has sort of been a long process if you're looking at the longer history between 1960 and 1919. And I think the thing that stands out with Philadelphia as opposed to many of the others is that a lot of them are tied to work. African Americans are coming into these cities and they're taking jobs from, or what white people perceive as their jobs, right? They're creating competition for work. In Philadelphia, it really is centered on space. That African Americans aren't necessarily competing for the same jobs, but they are competing to live in the same spaces. And so the control of space in Philadelphia, the control of housing and who gets to own property seems to be what this riot is centered on. And it sets it apart from other riots that we see in other areas.
What about the role of Black veterans? That is to say, those perhaps who had fought in World War I, for example, those who had martial skills, for example. Mm-hmm. What role do they play?
Yeah, I haven't uncovered a lot about veterans themselves, but the primacy of the gun as the tool for the protection of the community is central to this story. When it sparks on July 26, 1918, a probation officer named Adela Bond, Mrs. Adela Bond, uses her weapon to protect herself from the riot that is gathered around her home. African-American men from all walks of life gather together around August 14th to form this a militia where they would gather their guns to protect their community, police their community. And city police on July 30th were actually going into Black households and confiscating Black guns, to the point where lawyer George Edward Dickinson actually brought a case before the courts in Philadelphia to demand the return of these weapons. And he was successful in that suit. And so while veterans do not seem to appear in the forefront of this battle, the right to self-protection and self-determination is.
Mm-hmm. What role does gender play in your story?
Yeah, I think gender is essential to really understanding the way African American history, particularly in Philadelphia, functions and the way Black people work together. It all starts because a Black woman stands up and demands protection for herself. The protection is not coming from the police, who do not come to her aid. So she has to protect herself with her weapon. And that's a story that is consistent in Philadelphia history, right? The right of Black women to protect their communities through organizing, through physical protection, as Mrs. Adela Bond did, and the desire for Black men to create spheres of protection for those women, for them to create spheres of protection for Black homes. It's all interconnected, I think, during this period. And when we're thinking of gender, I think we often think of it in terms of women's history. But the right of a man to defend his home, to defend his place, is essential to understanding how manhood functions in American society. At this point, America is at war, and Black men are joining up in droves to express their manhood. And so it is natural then that in Philadelphia, when there's a race riot, that an expression of manhood would be for them to go out and to protect their communities through legislative, physical, and political means.
Finally, Professor Hardy of Bates College, does our audience have an opportunity to look forward to something you'll write and publish about this? And refresh our recollection about that earlier publication you mentioned a few moments ago.
Yeah, I am working now to turn this paper into a larger publishable work on the Red Summer in Philadelphia. I'm looking through other newspaper sources and police records to really flesh out that story of the fight, the political fight for Black self-determination and protection, and the physical fight for Black protection and self-determination, as well as the legal fight. And so hopefully by the end of the year, next year, I will have a publishable work on hand that the listeners could pick up and read and be transported by. My larger work, my dissertation, was on Black banking in Philadelphia between 1900 and 1930, entitled Making Black Power Pay. And in that, I explore the way Black economic nationalism is utilized as a strategy by Black people in Philadelphia to challenge Jim Crow in the urban North, and to build the idea of this Black nation. I argue that that's done through the intergender mutualism of Black men and Black women, and it is a requirement that Black men and Black women work together in order to really achieve Black autonomy in the United States.
Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. Everett Hardy II, visiting assistant professor of history at Bates College in Maine. Thank you for joining us on Freedom Now, KPFK, Los Angeles.
Thank you.
Pledge $80 for 2 tickets and join us on Juneteenth, this upcoming Wednesday, June 19th, at the Hollywood Bowl for a Juneteenth celebration. A celebration of Black music with orchestra with special guests D Smoke, T-Pain, Ladisi, Tina Campbell of Mary Mary, La Russell, DC6 Singers Collective, Color of Noise Orchestra, and Derek Hodge Conductor. Call 818-985-KPFK. That's 818-985-5735. You'll need to give an email address so our phone operator can take your pledge with this thank you gift that you can transfer the tickets to this email address. These tickets are not available through our KPFK website. These tickets are special to KPFK. We give thanks to the Hollywood Bowl for supporting our Freedom Now programming and our mission here with these Juneteenth tickets. The entire $80 goes straight to KPFK. Again, this is for 2 tickets to the Hollywood Bowl for the Juneteenth celebration. With an $80 pledge, you get 2 tickets. Call 818-985-KPFK. That's 818-985-5735. And again, this is a celebration of Black music with orchestra with special music guests D Smoke, T-Pain, Ladisi, Tina Campbell of Mary Mary, La Russell, DC6 Singers Collective, Color of Noise Orchestra, and Derek Hodge Conductor. This is Sister Tej, and I have to give a special shout out to our brother D Smoke, who I personally had the honor of being his colleague at a South LA high school. And he's been with KPFK supporting music programs like Breakbeats and Rhyme. Shout out to Matt Perez and Brother Chetty. Shout out to our KPFK family. So come out and support. Thank you, Hollywood Bowl, for supporting our listeners with these tickets to support our pledge drive with a donation of $80. You don't want to miss this. You get 2 tickets. It's happening Wednesday, June 19th at 8 p.m. at the Hollywood Bowl. 818-985-KPFK. That's 818-985-5735. Please have an email address ready, yours or someone you want to surprise. You can give them the 2 tickets, but you're supporting KPFK. You're supporting Hollywood Bowl's Belief in Freedom Now's mission. I was on the phone with them, talking to them about our programming and why we wanted to pitch these tickets to support Freedom Now this hour. So please call 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, and we'll see you at the Hollywood Bowl on Juneteenth, Wednesday, June 19th at 8 p.m. And in closing, thank you to everybody who donated this hour to support Freedom Now and KPFK. Thank you to our guests, Ron Wilkins and Everett Hardy II. Thank you to our producers, Dr. Gerald Horne, Sister Flora, Sister Femi, Brother Brandon. And always, thank you to our audio engineer, Wendell Handy. Thank you, Maggie Lepeak and Terry Guy, and all those who made today's program possible. Please stay tuned for our Sister Sumta coming up next with Spotlight Africa, addressing issues facing Mother Africa. Signing off for Freedom Now, this is Sister Tej. And until next week, as always, we stand ready for revolution.